Today, I'm going to tell you why you're not getting any clients with AI automation. So logically, you clicked on this video. That means you either run an AI automation business or you're planning on starting one. And that's great. This is one of the highest potential growth industries currently available. But right now, there's this big elephant in the room. And that's where new entrants into the market are investing time and capital into starting a business. And then they start banging their heads on the wall because they're not seeing any clients, they're not getting any results. I scaled my own AI automation business to $72,000 per month. And I now consult with over 1,400 other AI automation businesses and freelancers. So I've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly how to avoid that and then start swimming in clients and swimming in leads. So there are three big problems, okay? And these are the three big problems why you're not getting any clients with AI automation. The first is that you have what's called pipeline famine. If I could spell pipeline right, which I think I can, then voila. The second major issue is that you have shiny object syndrome. And hopefully I'm not hurting anybody's feelings when I point it out like that, but a lot of you guys have shiny object syndrome. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. And then the third reason is you guys are prioritizing learning over doing. And I'm going to cover each of these in depth over the course of the next few minutes, just so we're all on the same page here. But if you solve the three big problems that I'm talking about here today, you are going to be able to scale a business substantially easier, substantially faster than basically anybody else that's starting, getting into this industry. And not only that, you're going to be able to do so predictably, as opposed to it being sort of like a game of chance where maybe you're fighting with referrals or something like that. You're going to be able to front load, your lead gen and start talking to real customers and getting clients much faster than most other people. My approach works. It's been used by over 1,000 people to date. It's probably the straightest line path to succeeding in this industry. So not to toot my own horn here, let me actually just get into the information. And, if you guys find it valuable, you guys can implement it and employ it for yourselves. So the first reason is called pipeline famine. Basically, to be clear, if you are not currently getting clients with AI automation, the only reason at the end of the day that you are not getting these clients is because you are not talking to enough potential customers. Basically, you're in a state of what I like to call pipeline famine, okay? Now, for people that don't know, and for the people for whom the term pipeline is sort of new news, a pipeline essentially just refers to all of the marketing and sales activities of your business. And in AI automation, because it's so technical, we tend to forget a lot about this pipeline because we spend our focus more on like the technical shiny objects around us, like the systems that we build, the no-code tools that we're using and learning, and so on and so forth. But let me be clear in that, whether it's an AI automation agency or like a local services agency or an HVAC company or a plumbing company or the next Uber or whatever, the only thing that you need in order to have a business is not like the product itself, because the product actually doesn't matter. What matters is the people that are going to consume whatever product you provide them. And so that's what I like to call the pipeline. So your pipeline's the foundation of your business. If you don't have that foundation, nothing else matters, okay? We could have the most amazing product in the world. You could make the GPT-7, which, artificial general intelligence, take over the world, whatever. I don't know. You're trying to sell some amazing product here. But if you don't have a single buyer, what you have is not a business. You are barely operating a hobby. And I don't say this to be super harsh. I just say this to be realistic. This is the number one bottleneck and the major issue that most people that I consult with on a daily basis have. They just don't have any opportunities. Because they don't have any opportunities, they don't really have a business. Doesn't matter if you have the most amazing product. You can't sell it to anybody. It doesn't matter. So you could have nothing else in the world. And I think there are a lot of people that have started AI automation businesses that don't have any skills in this industry, okay? No skills, no website, no case studies, no experience, no actual systems knowledge at all. But they just talk to enough customers long enough, and then they eventually win, and they beat out people that focus on these instead, okay? Extremely talented people often never go anywhere, and it's simply because they don't have the opportunities to do so. You could be the most, talented, smart, genius, technically competent person on planet Earth, but if you just don't have a way to convert that knowledge into some sort of dollar value at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, and you're not really going to be able to start any sort of business. So I was going to draw this, and I'm sort of like trying to figure out exactly the best content delivery mechanism for this between drawing and then slideshowing right now, so bear with me. But essentially, the way that I see it is pipelines, marketing, generating opportunities, these are the base of your pyramid, okay? So, if you think about our pyramid, we have kind of three parts here. 1, 2, 3. The first is marketing. This gets people in through the door. And what you'll see is this is actually sort of opposed to how most people pitch this. Most people kind of pitch this as a funnel, okay, which is like an inverse thing with marketing at the top, kind of sales in the middle, and then, the business at the end. But I like to think of it as the foundation, okay? So this is all of like your lead gen. It's all of, I don't know, like maybe your outbound. So outbound just refers to calls, text messages, DMs, video sends, that sort of stuff. Over here is your sales. So sales might be like the actual, I don't know, the closing calls that you jump on. What are called discos or discovery calls. Might be the setting of the appointments and so on and so forth. And then up here, you have your fulfillment. Fulfillment is where you actually deliver the thing that you promised the customer that you would. So in the AI automation space, usually this is like the system, right? This is some sort of no-code builder, usually, N8N, Make.com, Zapier, that sort of stuff. You put together a beautiful system that delivers something to them. Maybe it's like, I don't know, outbound lead generation system. Maybe it's some sort of proposal generator system. Maybe it's some sort of CRM, right? That's the fulfillment. But I just want you guys to look at the building. Okay, if we just break this building down, and if I use a different color because I want to make this a little bit sexy, how much of this is actually related to like how much of this is after you get a client, realistically? Only the very top of this pyramid is actually like you getting the client. The client prospect having transformed into a client. Like, the person is only a client here. When you're selling them, they're not a client. When you're marketing to them, they're not a client. And I just want you to look at like the total volume of this triangle, okay? Or what should I say, surface area of this big triangle. The surface area of this section right here, like logically, is like 1/9 of this whole thing. Okay? It's like 1/9. I mean, I could run the math on this, I'm sure, but I mean, like, if you just count up all of the, centimeters or square inches or whatever the hell you want to use as a unit of measurement here, this pyramid, 8/9 of it is the sales and marketing. And what people tend to do is they do the opposite. They spend 8/9 of their time on the fulfillment, and then they only spend 1/9 of their time on the sales and the marketing, and then they wonder why the hell they aren't getting any clients, they aren't really getting any customers. So this is how you're going to want to conceptualize your business. You're going to spend the vast, overwhelming majority of your time on sales and marketing opportunities. And, because the widest foundation of this whole thing is marketing, you're going to want to spend like a proportional amount of time on the marketing, especially when you get started. So this is fantastic and it's amazing. I'm going to show you guys how to actually do this step by step in a second, but essentially this is marketing, it's lead gen, it's cold calling, it's cold DMing. If you just started a business, 9 out of the 10 hours you spend on it should be generating opportunities. That's 90%. As opposed to spending 5 to 10%, you're going to want to literally multiply the amount of time you are currently dedicating to this. And most likely, for everybody that's watching this does not yet have a customer that's planning on doing so, you're going to want to spend at least 10 to 20 times the amount of time that you are currently spending on sales and marketing if you really want to succeed and grow. So what actually matters for us here is, not just a bunch of theory, because at the end of the day, we could spend all day learning, we could spend no time doing, and we'd be no better off. And that's one of the things I'm going to cover in a minute. Let me actually show you guys how to generate more opportunities step by step. This is like step by step exactly what I and many other AI automation companies in this space are doing right now. So here are the steps that I would take if I was currently at the start line of an AI automation business and I wanted to get more customers and more clients. I wanted to solve this big problem. The first thing that I would do is that I would focus on outbound activities. Outbound activities are just things that you are sending out to other people, and you usually don't have any pre-existing connection to them. This is the simplest, most scalable way to acquire customers with usually as minimal a cost as humanly possible, aside from your time that is available when you are beginning a business. So you are reaching out to people to sell a service. The only need most of the time is time, or, time with a little bit of money sprinkled in. Think about it like, I don't know, you could spend 2 hours per day, 3 hours per day sending cold emails or something like that. In terms of the total amount of money that you spend that day doing it, it might be $2 or $3, right? Most of these cold email platforms are like, between $50 to $100 or so. So, $50 to $100 divided by 30 days in a month, it's like, $1.5 to $3 plus the cost of leads. You spend $3 a day, but then maybe 2 or 3 hours of your time doing this. And for a lot of businesses at the start line, that's a worthwhile trade-off to make because they have more time than they have money. So here's a very simple way to shift 90% of your time to outbound activities. First thing you want to do is you want to send 10 customized DMs per day across LinkedIn, Twitter and X, and Instagram. My recommendation, and what I just talked about in my last video, so feel free to check that out if you'd like, is to record high quality sales videos where you actually solve a problem for the customer before they've asked you. And then what you do is you take that video, you customize the first line of your email or something like that, and then you send it out to them and say, hey, I just solved this problem for you. In the video, what you do is you basically go through their website, you go through a system that they have, some funnel, let's say, if they're maybe like a coach or consultant on YouTube, whatever the hell, and you give them some value before you make any sort of ask. Another thing that you can do right now, in order to shift that outbound activity ratio to an 80, 90%, is you could set up cold email infrastructure using platforms like Instantly and Apollo. You could send hundreds of cold emails per day and then just spend an hour every morning going through replies, split testing campaigns, etc. Everybody that's winning in my community, not everybody, but the vast majority of people that are winning in my communities, they're doing this right now. It's over 1,400 AI automation businesses. The vast majority of the ones that are winning are front-loading cold email, and they're talking to 1,000+ people a day. And they spend most of their time iterating campaigns, rewriting copy, and that sort of stuff. You can also, this is my big recommendation if you're a total newbie to this, you can create a profile on a freelancing website like Upwork, and you can just send 10 proposals per day. Okay, same sort of idea here. You record high quality sales videos where you solve a problem for the customer before they've asked you anything. So these are very similar skills. If you get good at one of these, you can very easily transfer it over to another. This right over here, 10 per day, might realistically take you between 30 minutes to an hour. If every video is 2 to 3 minutes and you spend an additional minute like looking up the customer or something like that. This over here could send 2 to 3 minutes. Same deal, 30 minutes to an hour. This is 2 hours, and 2 hours, that's 4 hours. This might be another hour. Realistically, you spend 5 hours of your 6-hour workday or something like that on Outbound, and then you reserve the other hour for following up with clients, fulfilling client requests, that sort of stuff. You are very well positioned to get your first few customers and get the ball rolling. And once the ball is rolling, then you can start shifting the amount of time you're spending on outreach so that maybe more of it is accommodating to client fulfillment. But don't do that before, because right now your skills with the tools don't matter. Which tool you're using don't matter. You don't need to upskill. You don't need to up level. The vast majority of what you really should be doing is you should just be doing outreach. Okay. We're not trying to make $1 billion business here. We're just trying to help you get to, 2, 3, 4, 5K a month. Another thing that you can do is you can do what's called network reactivation. If you guys aren't familiar with network reactivation, it's the concept where we actually have a lot of value buried in our contact network, our Rolodex, so to speak, and that value rarely gets used or exercised. So if you've ever had any sort of job in, a technical industry, or if you've done any sort of freelancing, or if you've operated a previous business, or if you've done anything like that, you will likely have contacts. My recommendation is to use the Hormozi method and reach out to them. Hormozi, being Alex Hormozi, he had I don't know if this is on a podcast or something, but it was sort of a brief throwaway line or maybe a short reel where he basically said, here's what you do. You go through your current network right now, you identify contacts that own businesses, freelance, or have worked with you before. Then you just reach out to them and you check in. You say, hey, how's it going? I know we haven't talked in a while. Like, what's going on? How are you doing? What are you up to these days? I'd love to check in. I think we could offer some mutual value to each other, whatever. You customize the hell out of your communique. If you can jump on a call, then do that. If you have old clients, this is the best because old clients have already spent money with you. Okay. And then all you do is when they ask you what you're doing, tell them, and then ask, hey, do you know anyone that could benefit from what I am building right now? This is a soft pitch. What I mean by this is you're not actually pitching them directly. What you're doing is you're asking them if they know anybody that might be interested in what you are selling. And as a result, if they are interested in what you are selling, they will say, oh, well, I'm interested in what you're selling. Or, maybe that would be interesting for me. And then if they're not, then they can scour the network. And then if they're still super not and they don't have anybody in their network, then they can just tell you no. You've preserved the relationship while still allowing you an opportunity to reactivate your network. This is a very simple example. You can obviously structure this however much you want, but I found a lot of the time this is all you need to do. When I was running my content writing company, 1 Second Copy, we scaled to 92K a month. A big chunk of that every month, 20, 30K a month of our revenue was this. We simply reached out to old clients. We did this every month. We built some sort of warm connection and we said, hey, is there anybody that you might know that might need content writing services? And lo and behold, at the time, this is mid 2020, early 2021, a lot of people needed content writing services. And so we sold like crazy. The last thing to do is to create content, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Think about it from my perspective. I'm not doing outbound. What I'm doing is inbound. And I spend the vast majority of my day now producing content for inbound marketing purposes. So I'm doing the exact same thing that I'm recommending you guys. I'm just doing it in a slightly different format. But you can also do the same thing I'm doing. Content is a fantastic way to generate inbound leads. It's one of Naval Ravikant's 3 ways of leverage, which I believe is like labor, media, and code. I should note that this is only going to work if you have some reason for people to listen to you. If you don't, have anything noteworthy, no accomplishment. Like one of the reasons I was able to grow on YouTube so quickly is because I'd actually made money in the spaces that I was talking about. And so I had inherent interest and inherent credibility in who I was and what I'd done. If you don't actually have this, then, don't do content to start. But if you do have some sort of credibility, if, I don't know, you started something in a business in a vertical and you managed to scale it to something impressive, maybe something that's like in the top 1% of your field, then my recommendation for you is just create one piece of content per day. And in that content, just give everybody all the sauce, okay? Just tell them everything that you did in order to get to where you are right now and what you're planning on doing as well in the future. The value that you will get out of just sharing your secrets openly tends to vastly outshadow any sort of strategic benefit that you would have by keeping them to yourself. Unless we're talking like a quadrillion-dollar industry here, which doesn't exist, the vast majority of the value that you're going to get, the vast majority of the time, the value that you're going to get out of sharing is going to be substantially higher than the value you're going to get out of safeguarding or keeping. Gatekeeping, they tend to say. So my recommendation is, in terms of the ratio of what you give versus what you ask for in your content, try to do it at least 95% to 1. So I guess 95 to 5 is what I meant to say. Ideally, it'd be 99 to 1. So like 99% of the time in your content, like the content that I'm making, just give people the sauce. Tell people exactly what you did in order to get to where you're going. If you see problems in your industry, identify them, build content around them, build solutions on them, try them yourself. Once you've figured it out, then just share it with people. And then if you're going to make an ask, make like the tiniest, smallest ask at the end of the video or at the end of the content. Make it like 2 seconds and make it abundantly clear that like you're not forcing or holding anybody at gunpoint to do this. And if they don't, you're going to continue producing content. Okay, so that's problem number 1, massive problem. This is the main problem that I would recommend that you solve if you guys are currently, in the start line of any sort of AI automation business, and this is the client acquisition part has been a struggle for you. If you just solve that one problem, okay, everything else here is gravy. You're probably going to start at least building some sort of client acquisition strategy or funnel or repeatable system. And then if you can solve the subsequent 2 problems I'm going to show you here, the shiny object syndrome. Sorry, I think my Excalidraw, which is the tool I'm using to draw, just closed. If you can solve the shiny object syndrome, which we're going to talk about next, and then the learning overdoing, it's going to be you're just going to be printing money. So the biggest contributor to the former problem, which is not talking to enough potential customers, that pipeline famine, is something called shiny object syndrome. We've all heard of shiny object syndrome, okay? We're not new to shiny object syndrome. I'm going to try and draw a diamond here really quickly. Girlfriend would probably love this. Okay, that's not how you draw a diamond. Okay, so I clearly need to buy more people diamonds. The reality is in your average industry, you have one shiny object, okay? In our industry, we have like 5 million shiny objects. Our industry is just rife with shiny objects. There are more shiny objects in AI and automation than any other industry, hands down. Like it's not even close. It's like 1,000,000 to 1, okay? And the reason why is because our industry just inherently works with technology. I don't really know why I'm drawing diamonds here. I was told to try and make my content more engaging, so there you go. But we have new technologies that are coming out on a daily basis. A big chunk of our value is through artificial intelligence, which is inherently interesting. There's just so many shiny objects, and every new development in our industry seems like it's the final development. GPT, Search GPT just came out. That's going to invalidate a bunch of search stuff. Operator just came out. That's going to invalidate a bunch of other stuff. Like everything is marketed to make it seem as if this is the end game for business in general. In reality, this is not. And 99.9% of these make no appreciable difference to the industry, the industries that they are serving, because our space just moves so quickly that they tend to be replaced, within a week, a month, a year, whatever. So don't focus on the tools. Don't focus on the objects, okay? Focus on the skills underneath it. I'm going to run you guys through how to fix shiny object syndrome. And there are a couple of main ways. The first is you can't bounce around and expect to win. So what are some shiny objects in our niche? Well, industry is a shiny object, people to target, okay? Tools, the specific offers to try. The reality is, if you want to succeed in this vertical or any other, you need a certain amount of investment in the thing in order to provide it an opportunity to win. Your ability to make something win, in many cases, is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you try a thing, and if you invest a lot of time and energy and skill in a thing, you are increasing the probability of that thing working out. But if you start something, okay, every time you do, you require some sort of reinvestment or relearning period or readjustment period then every time you do that, you're basically starting back from scratch. You pulled all that investment back. It's absolutely nothing. You've invested nothing at this point into this new thing. You got to redo it all again. And then what usually happens is humans get bored of something after a few weeks, and then a few weeks go by, and when you're finally just at the point where that thing's about to work, you start something else. Okay, so we have some built-in biases that I'm going to briefly cover just to give you guys some context, and then I'm going to tell you guys exactly how to solve this. The first is we have a novelty bias. So humans, and I'm imagining you're a human, not a crazy lizard person from space that's watching this video, we crave novelty. In reality, okay, winning, the process of winning is very boring. I know because I'm winning a lot right now. You just do the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's nothing special. You wake up, you have some set process that earns you more money than you put in. Okay, it puts out more money than you put in. There's a return on investment, return on ad spend, return on marketing spend, whatever you want to call it. And then you just do it over and over and over 24/7 until you achieve whatever goal it is. The reality is that humans require a level of stimulation that focused winning in one industry just does not provide. Additionally, our built-in bias to find the next thing tends to occur right around the time we'd actually start seeing results in the thing that we want to do. So you're starting a service line for automation. You're trying out recruitment agencies, and you're trying to pitch them a specific product, and you try for 2 or 3 weeks and nothing works. Okay, and then you're like, man, 2 or 3 weeks have gone by. This isn't working. I should probably switch to something else. Okay, this doesn't make any sense because you haven't invested sufficiently in the offer or the service line. You haven't iterated, you haven't improved it enough, you haven't added on to it enough and really explored the market to be confident that what you're doing is the right decision. Another bias is that the grass is always greener. Now, this is part of how we evolved. Since groups of people tend to exhaust local resources, you can kind of think of us as like hunter-gatherers, 50,000, 100,000, million years ago. Humans have this built-in predisposition to want to move around. Okay, we want to change. We want to see the grass on the other side of the hill. The reason why is because historically, when we would move to that side, we'd be more likely to survive. So this is like the core architecture operating system of our minds. It's not surprising that we crave shiny objects. We crave shiny objects, 10, 20, 30,000 years ago. We crave shiny objects way more now. And then on top of that, the objects that we are craving are way shinier to begin with. So there's sort of like a recipe for disaster. And it's not surprising at all that most people feel this way. The third major bias is we have a comparison bias. So we compare ourselves to others because, it's how we used to survive. The unfortunate issue is in the modern world, we have so many more opportunities to compare ourselves to others than nature ever intended. And what we see a lot of is people winning faster than you are currently winning, except they're doing it in another niche. It is natural to wonder why and then consider switching for yourself. Here is the truth behind it all. The market, and whether it's the AI automation agency market or the AI automation coaching market or the HVAC market or the plumbing market or the large language model market, whatever the hell it is, the market has built-in lag. When you try something, you have to give it enough time to succeed. You have to give it enough time and action, I should say, before it succeeds in order to really be able to definitively make a claim as to whether or not what you're doing is right or not. So as long as your fundamental assumptions are correct, and you are consistently showing up and practicing, you not seeing the results you expected is not a problem of what you are doing. It is usually a problem of expectations. So take however long you think it's going to need in order for you to do something or accomplish something. And then my recommendation is to multiply it by 2 or by 3. And then if you don't hit the thing you wanted to do by that time, then you can consider switching. Because, I'm talking about you not bouncing around and expecting to win. But in reality, you moving is also, it's a form of learning and it's a form of growth. The issue is not that people are moving, they're just moving a little too soon. So here's how to fix this step by step. Because it's one thing for me to, wax poetic all about what the hell this is theoretically. It's another thing for you to actually take this information and apply it to your business. So here are the exact steps I'd take if I were in your shoes. The first is I would pick 3 niches for my business and I'd commit to them. So choose the 3 niches that resonate most with your expertise, with your social proof, or your current opportunities. Now, you're going to commit to a set number of market segments. That might be recruitment agencies, B2B SaaS, like coaching and consultants or something from one of my most recent videos. You're just going to commit to these 3 ahead of time. And then by doing this, you're going to cut off all distractions and then give yourself the runway to gain actual traction in all 3 of these, okay? Now, the benefit to picking 3 niches, as opposed to just one, is you're also insulating against putting all your eggs in one basket. There's still a level of novelty and greener pastures that you crave. You're just not allowing for, new greener pastures to grab you at every turn. My recommendation is once you've run 3 niches for between 30 to 60 days, you can then determine the highest performing niche and then you can drop the other two. And the benefit from this is you'll still have the sensation of change. You're just going to have it without the drawbacks of you actually, completely picking up shop and then moving. Instead of you building, experience fast in one thing and then switching over, and then experience fast in another thing and switching over, you'll build your experience slowly in 3 things, and then you'll drop 2 of them. You'll shoot up the one that's a winner, and then you can double down and invest in that. After that, I'd recommend setting a no change rule for 90 days. So when I say 90 days of no changes, I don't mean that you can't make any adjustments or iterations to your product, okay? What I mean is, don't pivot, so don't start a new business, don't go into any new vertical, and don't choose any random side projects for at least 3 months. At least 3 months. Just give yourself the chance to succeed. What you're going to find is in life, there's almost always a dip in results before success. If I were to model the way that success looks like, it's usually, you start up pretty hopeful, everything's great, and then you have some big valley of disappointment before finally you start to grow exponentially. This was me, okay? I started off and I thought everything was amazing back when I ran my door-to-door marketing agency. I found some, measured success with it. I made, $5, $10, $15, $20,000. And then I had this huge valley. I think it's termed the Valley of Despair. I think a lot of other people talk about it, including Hormozy. But then I had a massive Valley of Despair where I just had to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it took me many, many more years to get to the same point that I had at the beginning than I thought before I started finally to exceed it. And now, if I look at my graph, I'm probably way the hell up here, and I'm looking at everything from a bird's eye view. It's obviously pretty sweet. So that's kind of like the Valley of Despair idea. That's sort of the no change rule and the dip in results. What you do with this no change rule is it forces you to push through the dip, which helps you avoid the false promise of greener pastures. The next thing is to create a structured routine where you do your revenue generating activities first every morning, okay? And then focus on just the things that actually make you money. And what are the things that actually make you money? If you guys remember from the last problem, it's usually outreach, it's usually sales, it's usually marketing. So what I mean by this is my recommendation, just take your calendar right now and block out a 2 to 3 hour period every morning exclusively to some sort of outbound or exclusively to some sort of marketing. The reason why is because it's going to leave you little mental bandwidth for chasing new ideas. The second that you double down on all this outreach, there's a feedback loop. You're going to start seeing responses from that outreach. You're going to start getting woven into sales calls and stuff like that. The second that you do this, you are basically pre-committing to spending future time in an industry. And by you doing so, you'll be thinking more about an industry, ultimately succeeding more in that industry. My recommendation here is by doing your revenue generating activities first. That also means that even though it's really boring, you're already ahead of pretty much everybody else by the time that you're done. So, in my case, I usually make my videos in the morning, not today, but suffice to say, by the time I'm done my video, which might take me a few hours, I have produced more value in a day than the vast majority of people will do in a week or more. And that's just because that's the very first thing that I do. And once it's done, hell, I could, watch SpongeBob or something all day, and I'd probably still be better off than most of my competitors. So the last thing I'm going to mention is maintain a future ideas list. So just, if you're using Apple Notes, or if you have some Notepad, Evernote on your computer, or if, you have some other app that you use, or maybe like a physical book, anytime you get a tempting thought, just write it down and just get it out of your head as quickly as possible. Then go right back to your current plan. At least now you have it written somewhere. At least now you've satisfied your brain's urge to get some idea out. Right? It's no longer bouncing around or rattling around in your skull. It's actually somewhere out on a piece of paper. And then at least then you can convince yourself, hey, I'm going to cover this. The grass is greener on the other side. I'm going to cover this when I'm done with my current thing. So in this way, you're sort of satisfying some of those built-in cravings that I talked about of novelty. You're also satisfying the grass is always greener. And then you're still allowing yourself to have strategic value of the ideas that you are creating, because there is tons of strategic value in a lot of the sort of shiny objects that you're pursuing. It's just a matter of how you execute on them, right? So that's my recommendation. This is personally what I do. I have tons of fantastic ideas, and they involve switching industries and jumping on new projects and jumping on new products. But historically, just given the return on investment I've had from doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, I add those to a list and I worry about them later. And later can come when I've satisfied or fulfilled my pre-commitment to succeed in the thing that I'm currently doing. So that's problem number 2. Problem number 3 is that most of you are unfortunately learning overdoing. What do I mean by this? I mean, and this is unfortunate because you're watching a YouTube video, which by nature is learning. It's a slideshow, and then I'm drawing on a page, school style professor stuff. But the reality is, more knowledge will not help you. I've consulted with over 1,400 AI automation businesses now. These are businesses, these are companies, agencies, freelancers, coaches, consultants, whatever. The vast majority of these businesses the vast majority of them, already knew enough to succeed. When I jumped on a call with them, or when I answered their question or did some Q&A or whatever, it wasn't the information that they needed to succeed, okay? It was applying that information to their daily life. So there's a difference between knowing something and then applying that thing. For instance, right now, you know all of that stuff that I told you about outreach. 10 cold DMs a day with a customized video, 10 Upwork apps a day, an hour every day, looking over your cold emails and crafting new campaigns. But that is very different from actually doing it, right? To know something involves you scrolling through a YouTube feed with thousands of people constantly begging for your attention, myself included, to try and give you some value, to have you hopefully exchange that into some monetary thing on our end. That is a very different set of skills than actually going and doing the thing, right? The set of skills required to know is basically a passive consumption set of skills where you just need to be able to lay back and then kind of identify the right material and then click a button and then focus on something for half an hour. And while that's still a pretty good set of skills, it's very different from the ability to apply stuff. It's very different from the ability to write applications or to be, somewhat charming or well put together or presentable on some sort of video that you're sending out to people, or to know the right copy to write, or to build the skills needed to be able to do some really cool automations. Applying is ultimately the name of the game. The vast majority of us know everything we need to know. It's just a matter of converting that into some sort of action. Now, how do you convert stuff into action? Well, that is a very, very different set of skills, which I'm going to cover in a second. So, I'm just going to sort of talk about the elephant in the room, which is YouTube. This is a YouTube video. The reality is you don't actually need to watch more YouTube videos about this. And while I think my channel has great information, it's certainly a lot higher quality and higher brow than most other people's. You don't actually need to watch this. Everybody loves to learn, okay? Learning is safe because there's no risk of failure, no chance of rejection. You could watch 1 million of my videos until you realize that you're now 90 days in, you've made $0. So, the danger is that you are tricking yourself into believing you're preparing, but you can't really just prepare for life. You have to go out and live life. At some point you have to jump out of the plane and then build your parachute on the way down. And I know that's a really kind of crappy expression. And it's well, I would never actually do that in real life. But that's sort of how business works, to be honest, at least in my experience. You could spend all day building out these big projections or being skeptical about something. Before you actually try it for yourself, there's no objective way for you to know whether or not you would have succeeded. And then consider this, the time is going to pass anyway. In the next 30 days or something, by the end of the month, 30 days is going to pass. Well, I guess it's February, so 28 days. 28 days are going to pass whether or not you do the thing, okay? Wouldn't it be better for you to have spent 28 days applying the knowledge that you are currently learning as opposed to just letting it fester in your head? So, if you learn something new, my recommendation is apply it the same day. If you're watching my videos and, I want you to, just do the thing that I'm doing alongside me. How I was just telling you a moment ago about setting aside 2 hours of your calendar. Well, don't just listen to that passively. Actually go into your calendar, block it out so that tomorrow when you wake up, when you have that period, you can actually start getting to work. Same thing if I do a live build or something. Anyway, just don't let knowledge fester in your head. The real learning is always going to happen with some sort of doing. So here's a step-by-step program, essentially, that I have used on myself, and I give to a bunch of people, over 1,000 people in my communities. And I find that this works extraordinarily well in practice. So if you just follow this, you should be able to make some meaningful headway against the learning versus doing problem. But in order for you to do this, you're actually going to have to take the steps that I'm applying right now. You can even pause the video, right, after I mention a thing that resonates with you. Go out and do the thing, and then just come back and watch the next bit. So the very first thing is block consumption in media. So my recommendation to you is, yes, block YouTube, block Instagram, block Facebook, block TikTok. If you have a problem, and most people know that they have a problem, right? Most people, we're not unaware of the fact that we have a problem with some sort of content consumption or whatever. If you know that you have a problem with one of these platforms, just block them. Now, if you do this, it doesn't mean that you're a content addict. It's just a tool at the end of the day. And it's a tool that adds a bit of friction the next time you're going to try and mindlessly access a resource. That's all we're doing. We're just adding a little bit of friction, 5% here, 10% there. It's a blocker for your phone where in order for you to you type in Instagram and then you try and click the thing, it'll just say, hey, this is blocked for now. Do you want to unblock it? You click a button. Usually you have to do some friction thing. You have to send yourself an email, or you have to undo some little cool pattern code, or you have to solve a quick little equation. This tiny bit of friction helps you jump out of the passive habit of consumption sorry about that, the passive habit of consumption rather than active intent. Because typically the way that things work is, you will sign on to and watch an Instagram reel simply because, I don't know, maybe like you get a notification on your phone, you click the notification, you look at your friend's text, and then when you go back, you just see Instagram, and all of a sudden that first reel grabs you, and then you scroll down the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Before you know it, you've wasted 45 minutes of your time. Same thing with a lot of platforms that we're watching today, like YouTube and other stuff. The algorithms will suck you into an additional hour of video. The reality is algorithms like this are now getting better than our abilities to stop them. So, a light bit of friction, like that screen that says, hey, you shouldn't be doing this right now. Do you want to do a friction code or something? This will sufficiently eliminate 90% of those passive habits. Are you still going to do it? Yeah, probably. I still do social media from time to time. That's fine. But I do it because I'm intentional about it. Like if I have a creator that I really like, I will intentionally sign on and I will say, I'm curious. Do they have a new video? If so, I watch said video. And then when I'm done, I shut it off. That little bit of intentionality basically turns you into an active producer of your life, not necessarily just a passive consumer of it. Okay, the next thing is for just to be clear, for us to distinguish between real progress. Real progress is sending outbound messages for fulfilling client work versus fake progress, which is usually watching videos or reading books. So my recommendation for you, and what I've implemented and employed in my own life, is I only give myself permission to learn something after I've already done something for the day. So a good example of this is I will only read tutorials and watch YouTube videos about automation if I've completed my revenue generating activities for the day, aka if I've already done my 2 hours from 6 to 8 a.m. I want you to think about this right now and consider what your revenue generating activities are going to look like. Are you going to be producing some sort of content? Are you going to be doing outbound, right? Do you have the credentials to produce content and make that interesting or worthwhile? Or do you have the credentials or the skills to sell stuff over video or sell stuff over cold email? Once you've sorted that out, schedule it, and then build that self-imposed rule where you're only going to be reading and watching, videos or tutorials on a guide or a new piece of technology if you've already done the thing that makes you the money. And then my goal is to inspire everybody here to adopt a learn and implement immediately mindset. So don't just watch 3 hours of training. Okay, watch 5 minutes, learn a thing, pause, then do the thing, and then come back and proceed. This changes things from this sort of passive edutainment style media where you watch stuff and you think you get the positive dopamine of being like, oh yeah, I've actually done that thing, right? Oh yeah, Nick made a lot of sense when he talked about the system. We're like, wow, the way he built that was really, really cool. This changes your content consumption habits from this passive one into an active one. You're now actively engaging. You're not just passively consuming edutainment. You're actually immediately applying it. So my rule is if you don't see a way to immediately apply what it is that you're consuming, it's probably not a good piece of content to be watching in the first place. Okay. Whether that applies to my content or other people's that you're watching or something like that, I'm going to leave that determination up to you. But that is my recommendation to solve learning overdoing. Okay, great. So we've now covered all three of the big problems with, you not getting any clients with AI automation. Just to recap, because I'm starting to do these recaps here, I find people get value out of them. The first was pipeline famine, which is where you need to spend realistically between 10 to 20 times, statistically, as much time as you are spending on client acquisition right now on client acquisition. So you need to reshift your entire thought pattern towards what this is. This isn't an AI automation business. If you're at the start line right now, this is a lead generation business, and your only business is to generate leads. Once you've solved this, you will go the vast majority of the way to success. But from there, tackle shiny object syndrome, which is, us looking at the greener pastures across the hill, us having that built-in bias to always be looking for novelty or some sort of stimulation when we see that what we're doing is not immediately providing results. Understand that the market has that built-in lag, and no amount of energy that you put in right now is going to see you getting results before that lag period finishes. So as long as you're just consistent and you provide some sort of daily drip feed of action, that action will eventually accumulate into success. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Give yourself enough time to actually see that succeed rather than jump around every few weeks. And the third thing was learning overdoing. As I've just talked about, I think that, my content is fantastic. There are a couple other channels of content that are, a couple of other channels on YouTube out there that are fantastic. There's definitely some value and some channels that you can follow on like Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or whatever. But my cardinal rule is just make sure that this is content that you can actually go out and apply to your own life to make your life better, as opposed to just something you are passively consuming all day. Because if you are doing the latter, you're just tricking yourself into thinking you're moving. Prioritize taking information, pausing whatever thing you are doing to learn, and then doing something with it, right? Prioritize actually taking actions in the real world, because time is going to pass anyway, and you might as well have some cool result to show for it. Awesome. So that's where we're at. I hope you guys appreciated this video. If you guys like the content that I produce, check out Maker School. It's a day-by-day accountability program that actually gets you your first automation customer, shows you how to build it from scratch. Otherwise, if you already have a business and you're interested in scaling it, join MakeMoneyWithMake.com, my next community, which helps you get to 25K and beyond by implementing good scalability practices. That's a good example of like a 99% value to 1% value pitch. So if you guys are looking to create your own inbound content, then I personally would recommend employing a structure like this. Hope you guys found value out of the video. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to drop them down below. As you guys know, I source most of my ideas from my audience at this point. So if there's something you want me to do, let me know. Otherwise, do that cool YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, get me to the top of the algo. I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks so much.